If you grew up in the 80s or 90s, chances are you probably owned a digital watch at some point of time. If not, and you're into watches, you should be giving them a try. I've put together this list of top 10 budget digital watches that you can consider. Some ground rules before we kick off. No smartwatches and no analog digital watches on the list today. Also, this list is going to feature a bunch of Casios. It's because they completely dominate the budget digital watch segment, and also Casios are god tier. Starting backwards, at number 10, we have the Casio W218H. This durable and highly functional resin-based watch comes with 50 meters of water resistance. It has an alarm clock, a stopwatch. This $15 G-Shock killer looks and feels like a G-Shock and is a no-nonsense watch. Up next, we have the Casio SGW100. This twin sensor watch has a built-in thermometer and digital compass, 5 alarms, dual world time, and 200 meters of water resistance. You get all of this for about $40. In my opinion, this is the most underrated watch on the list. Up next is the Casio Calculator. Worn by Marty McFly in Back to the Future and Dwight Schrute in The Office, this is a fun watch. You don't need a calculator on your wrist anymore, but it's always going to be a fun watch to wear. Now, if you have fat fingers like I do, it's going to be a real struggle trying to press those keys, but even so, for 20 bucks, maybe 30, it's a great watch to have. Next, we have the Casio A100. This watch was based on the F100 from the 1970s, which was worn by Ripley in the movie Aliens. Now, this is truly a retro looking watch with 4 buttons that are multicolor on the screen. If you want a watch that looks like it's from a different era and has some piece of history with it, this is the watch to get. Next, we have the Timex T80. You could also consider the Casio A700. Both of these watches have thin, clean-cut cases with polished bracelets, giving them somewhat of a dress watch aesthetic. If you want to try a stretchable freeform band, the Timex T80 would be a good option. If you want to keep your bands more classic, go for the Casio A700. Keeping the Timex trend going, we have the Timex Ironman Classic. In 1984, Timex partnered with the Ironman Triathlon to pilot these watches. These watches come with 100 meters of water resistance. It's a capable digital watch worn by athletes, Navy SEALs, nurses, you name it. Among celebrities, you can often see Mark Wahlberg rock one of these. I think John Mayer has one of them too. Definitely something to consider for $50. Any digital watch list would be incomplete without mentioning the Casio F91W. This is the world's most sold watch, and for $15 comes packed with features. Now, I would recommend this for smaller to medium wrist sizes, but if you have a large wrist like me, I would consider the Casio F105W. It looks similar to the F91W but has a slightly larger case and better backlight. A couple of honorable mentions before we jump into the top 3. First, we have the Amitron Griffey watch. This watch is an LED watch which reminds you of the Hamilton Pulsar or Hamilton PSR worn by James Bond. The PSR costs about $700, so $35 Amitron Griffey is a much better option if you're still trying out digital watches. Another honorable mention would be Skmei watches. They usually pay homage and try and replicate Casio or G-Shock watches. I usually steer clear from homage watch brands. That said, if you can find an affordable digital watch that you want to try out, I would recommend the Skmei Shock just because it's a full metal G-Shock replica for a fraction of the price. Alright, jumping into the top 3, we have the Casio A100. I would also put in the A158 here. These are retro design watches under $30. They're compact in size, have an LCD screen, they look great, and you know what, their bracelet doesn't pull hair. I would prefer going for the gold option. If it's good enough for Robert Lewandowski, it's definitely good enough for me. Coming in at number 2 is my favorite Casio watch, the AE1200. This world-timer watch is fondly known as Casio Royale because it closely resembles the Seiko G757 that James Bond was wearing. Now, this watch for $30 has 100 meters of water resistance and packed with other features. I would highly recommend getting this watch because it's one of the coolest looking watches that I own. And finally, top of the list is the Casio G-Shock DW5600. Now, I know it's a cliche to put this watch top of the list, but hear me out. This is the first watch that comes to mind when you think of the word G-Shock. Introduced in the 1980s, this watch is truly tough. They've conducted several tests and challenges, and this watch has survived just about everything thrown at it. It's perfect in size for all size wrists, has 200 meters of water resistance, and for $50, you're really wearing a piece of history on your wrist. If you're willing to spend a little bit more, almost double, you can get the solar version of the same watch. If you do, there truly isn't any other watch you need for a long time once you have one of those. Alright, so that concludes our list of top 10 digital watches in an affordable or budget range. Let me know what you guys think about it. Do you guys agree, disagree, have any thoughts? Let me know in the comments section below.